Hey everybody, it's Jay at LockNLube. Today we are unboxing the brand new DynaBoost dual mode grease gun. This is a big moment for us because we've been working on this gun for literally years. We've created a gun that can deliver both more pressure and more volume per stroke than any other manual grease gun on the market. When you open it up, you'll see a couple things here. The hose assembly, of course, the LockNLube Grease Coupler, the extra long whip hose, and our inline hose swivel. Throw that away. Here, priming instructions. Now the grease gun. A couple things you'll notice here that are familiar from other LockNLube guns. We've got our loop and lock attachment on the top. This also doubles as a secondary air bleeder. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Over here, we've got our combo port. This is for bulk filling and your primary air bleeder. We've added a couple bells and whistles, including an industry best 10-year warranty. Here you have your green indicator pin. This is the little bit of insight we get from the outside of the gun in terms of what's going on and makes this so different. When I remove the safety ring that has this important announcement that our lawyers made us put on here, which we'll also talk about, you can see the two pistons. So inside you have a large diameter and a small diameter piston. These work together in the default high flow mode. That means you get an ounce of grease out of this gun much faster, about 25 strokes. If you hit a clog, what's going to happen is the gun is automatically going to detect when there is back pressure in the system, about 1500 PSI, give or take. That's going to pop this pin out. The gun is automatically going to bypass that larger diameter piston and only engage the small piston for high pressure. So when the pin is out, you're going to get less grease per stroke, but you're going to notice that you can start to build pressure much more easily, up to 12,000 PSI. That's more pressure than a Milwaukee cordless grease gun with one hand. The best part is the gun's automatically going to reset. The indicator pin goes back in and you're using two pistons again, driving more grease per stroke so you can get the job done faster. That is the core of the DynaBoost technology. The hang tag card you're going to take off says, don't pump the gun more than 15 consecutive times after the pin has come out. That is because when the pin pops out, you got about 1500 PSI in the system. As you continue to pump in high pressure mode, if you don't clear the clog, you're just adding more and more and more pressure. If after 15 pumps you have not cleared the clog, stop. It's not going to clear. You're going to need to buy yourself a grease buster and put it on there and clear the clog. That's what this is all about. The air bleeders. The primary air bleeder, this goes straight into the barrel of the gun. This is the way all grease guns work. You've got an air bleeder valve to bleed the air pockets out of the main chamber. Now, because this gun has a second chamber up top, that small diameter chamber for the high pressure mode, we've added a secondary air bleed valve. In my experience, you're probably not going to need this, so don't worry too much about using it, but if there were some reason where you just could not get the air bubbles out of the system, you can use this and then re-engage. Now, when assembling the grease gun, we do encourage you to use thread tape or some sort of pipe dope or whatever you're going to use because the gun can develop so much pressure to make sure that this connection is leak-free. Now that our hose assembly is installed on the grease gun, I'm able to use our loop and lock, push the thumb lever down on the coupler, and store it there so that this isn't in my way. The other thing you'll notice about the DynaBoost, in addition to the modified head, the two pistons, the indicator pin, secondary bleed valve, all the things that are a little bit different about this gun, is the barrel. This barrel is longer than our standard barrel and it steps down at the bottom. Inside, like all of the LockNLube grease guns, this follower rod can be locked into the plate here. That can assist with clearing those initial air pockets when you're priming the grease gun. Separate from that, this bottom is loose. So the whole unit can move inside the barrel. The reason for that is to allow this follower plate to come up and out the top, because if you are choosing to bulk fill the grease gun, either suction fill or use the bulk port here, you're going to want to flip this follower before you do it. And when you do that, it makes it a little bit wider and it will also drag clean down the barrel so that as it's pushing the grease up, you're not left with a bunch of greasy mess at the bottom. Simply push it up to the top, and we can fold it back down for cartridge filling, which is what we're going to be doing today. And that's the default. When you buy the gun, we're assuming you're going to put a cartridge in there, so that's the way it comes. If you want to bulk fill it, flip the follower. Now, I mentioned that at the bottom, the barrels step down a little bit. The reason for that is to give you better grip as you pull the follower rod out. When I go to prime a grease gun, I generally do it sideways. I find that with this gun, that can be challenging. The spring tension in here is hard, right? It's going to take a little work. So if you find that you're struggling, we found hold it down and pull up. That will be much easier for you. Now that we got this out, let me grab some grease. We'll get it loaded and primed and show you how easy it is to start using your DynaBoost grease gun. I'm going to rest this metal top in that plastic bottom. Keeps it clean. Insert our tube of grease. Here, there are a lot of threads in the head of this gun, okay? So when you go to load it, I'm just going to give it a couple turns. I'm going to put my follower rod in. And this is something to check, especially if it's your first time using the grease gun. I mentioned that the follower rod can lock to the plate. Depending on how you twisted the rod during the opening and priming process, it may be locked to the plate. So if you can't get the rod to go all the way in, there you go. It was locked to the plate. A simple quarter twist is how you change that. So by pulling out and twisting, I can lock the rod into the plate. Now we can apply some mechanical force and some pressure to actually clear all the air that was in the head of the gun before we loaded it. I'm going to open up my air bleed port here. Once I get it up, I see the grease coming out immediately. I'm going to close that as fast as I can, because what that's telling me is that the spring tension and the pressure being applied from the bottom is already enough that we didn't have any air come out of that port when I opened it. It was all grease. So I think we're in a pretty good position. What I'm going to do now is twist that follower rod a quarter turn until it goes in. Now that the rod is stored, I can finish twisting the barrel ons. Okay, got a nice tight fit there. Grease coupler into trash can. For the priming process, you want to go slowly. So the inclination for a lot of people is to hammer on the handle like this to get it primed. That's not actually going to give the chamber time to refill. As you're pushing on this, think of it, the piston has to move, and when it comes back, there's an opening. The pressure from the spring pushes the follower plate up, pushes the grease into that chamber, and then you have grease to dispense with the grease gun, right? If you're hammering on it like this, you're not giving it time to reload. And so by pumping it a little bit more slowly than might feel natural, you're giving it all the time in the world to reload, and now we're already getting grease out of the grease gun. I can feel it in the hose, and so we've got our grease gun primed. There we go. Grease is coming out. I'm not feeling any air pockets. And that's it. We've got our grease gun loaded, primed, taped up, ready to go. Now we're going to grab our pressure gauge and show you how it works in both high flow and high pressure mode. When you connect to any grease fitting, you're in high flow mode. What that means is both pistons are firing. You're getting an ounce of grease in just 25 strokes. Because this is a closed system, it's not going to take that many for me to start building pressure. You can see the pin sort of heave a little bit as you're building pressure, and there it comes out. So now we have our indicator pin popped out at just under 2,000 PSI. So that's going to give you an indication of, okay, this fitting's probably not taking grease. But we're at 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 PSI. And for me, it's starting to get tough. Like I said, with my grip strength there, it gets challenging. But we're at just about 11,000 PSI, and that's as far as I feel like I would naturally push it in the field. For disconnecting this for grease injection security purposes, I'm going to put on a little safety equipment. We'll get the coupler disconnected. Got my eye protection on. I've been told these glasses look insane in the video, but it's the only ones we have. So the coupler is not leaking. Our taped connection here looks totally good. So we've set this gun up well. It's set up for high pressure. No problem there. So now I'm going to disconnect the coupler. I'm going to use both hands to get it off. Obviously, the wad of grease comes out because, like I said, this is a closed system. That's what happens when you disconnect under pressure. It has to zero out. Now here, the main thing to notice is the pin automatically goes back in. We're back into high flow mode. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to think about anything. The grease gun's doing the work for us. The back pressure from the system has been cleared. The grease gun resets immediately, and you're back to greasing in that high flow mode where you can get through your maintenance faster, more grease per stroke, less pumping, less fatigue. And that is the beauty of the DynaBoost Grease Gun. Thanks for watching. For more information about DynaBoost and all the other great products from LockNLube, check out LockNLube.com or search for us on YouTube.